Hello, everybody. Welcome to Chuck Furuya Uncorked. This week, we have Ariana.
What's up?
The Grom Som.
Yee.
We have Chris Ramel, the Phenom Som.
I did not approve that.
Yes.
I did not approve that nickname.
And then me, the Lone Som. Or the Handsome.
We had to put him in the middle so he didn't get too lonely.
Exactly.
Can
So
I
we
leave
thought
now?
we thought we'd take a different approach in talking about wine and food a little bit. So we're going to feature a cheese board, a cheese and salumi and fruit board from a relatively new company that's just softly launching their project. What is the website?
So this is going to be from Fig Ginger Honolulu. You can visit them at fghonolulu.com. I just checked it out earlier this morning. You can pre-order all your boxes. It's really easy to go. And I believe we have the grazing box, which is $65.
Look
So
at that.
feel free to check
Look at
it
that.
out online because they're doing some amazing stuff.
Yeah.
They have an Instagram, Facebook. Follow them because they're making me hungry.
And then this is the first time I'm really opening this thing. And if you look at the cheese board, cheese and salumi and just their board, look at it. So pretty and artistic, and it looks so fresh and alive. It's something perfect to take to a party or get-togethers
Absolutely.
or just poo-poos at home, right?
Yeah,
Gifts.
even date night. I mean, me and the girlfriend could take down that for sure.
Absolutely. So, again, in this one, it looks like there's some prosciutto here. Looks like there's some sopressata here. And then I think they have some brie.
Vegetables, brie, yep.
Yeah, they have dried apricots. Looks like they have some manchego, which is a Spanish cheese, and they got some type of honey here. They have kiwi, and they have some Gouda. I noticed over here in the corner.
The good stuff.
It's Gouda.
Oh, good, huh?
Gouda.
But not just any honey, right? Local honey.
Yeah, exactly. And if you look,
believe it's
they also have a little
called
card here, and it tells you all about like the F&G Signature Grazing Board, the Boo Board, and Trick or Treat Keiki box. So a lot of little cool things. For information, you go to the website, right?
Yes, on the website, you can also check out November menu items are coming up soon. So we got to be really excited about that.
So I thought to make this fun and take advantage of these people's expertise, I thought we would do a tasting. So the first thing I'd like to do is just, anybody got a fork here? No,
Yeah,
let's
knife,
leave the
right
plate
here.
here.
Thance you, sir.
Okay, let's put a little bit of cheese on each person's plate.
Thank
This is-
God. I thought we were just going to look at it. I'm glad we get
It's
to
so
eat it.
pretty, though. It looks like one of those like Japanese moms that makes their bento lunch for their kids. So pretty, and I don't want to mess it up, but it looks really
what do you-
appetizing.
Oh,
There Chuck goes, so never mind.
I know. So this thing is from the other guys. And then that's the brie. And this is the Gouda. Here, why don't you...
I'm from Kauai. I
here.
can just use my hands,
Yeah,
yeah?
exactly.
Pass down some crackers.
Here, and then grab the manchego.
They even have like
Manchego.
a fresh rosemary sprig in the crackers.
Oh.
Pretty.
They're trying to branch out. So then, in addition to that, there's some caperberry here. Caperberry is very different from the caper. The caper is essentially an unblossomed bud. The caperberry is more fully developed, so it has more flavors. It's not so tight and crunchy. It's more juicy with all these little seeds inside that are totally edible. It's a little more subtle way of giving brininess to the combination. So I think it's really fun.
Thank
And
you.
then, so while he's plating these three cheeses, then we'll save the salumi for later, okay?
Okay.
Sorry, my bad.
Okay,
I
so
just
we're
got
going to go
excited.
from left to right. So if I could just show you the bottles over here. Let me cross over Chris. The glass on the left is the
Crisscross.
Barricino Malvasia Bianca. I saw this at a store. It was $12.99. I think it's a sensational value. The grape variety is called Malvasia. I'll go into more detail a little bit later. Let me cross over again. The middle wine, the grape variety is called Kerner, and this comes from the northwest mountains of Italy. So among the Dolomites, the Dolomites, and it's just a grape variety that I think started off in Germany. It was propagated in Germany. It's a cross between Riesling and a red grape variety called Schiave. Schiave or Schiava?
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 Schiava. I get Schiave is real Favara's red wine. I always get those two confused.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Kiave.
Oh.
Schiava.
Would you?
Potato patata.
Would you?
Potato schiava.
Okay, and then the third wine on the right, and again, we're always looking for value-driven wine. So we went to the store, and these are some of the wines that we bought. This is the Hooked Riesling from Germany. So it comes from the Mosel region, and it's just a country-style German Riesling that has a little bit of sweetness. So as you know, cheese, guys, is really about fat, right? It's just the concentration of you're getting rid of essentially the water, and you're concentrating the solids that's left, and specifically the fat. And some people will add more fat to it, right?
You're talking to me like I don't know about fat. Like this is hilarious.
You're an expert. So then, essentially, during the curing process, you're also using salt, right? So the more hard
Chris also
the
knows
cheese
what salt is. Salty
for
boy.
the more hard the cheese is, therefore, the more firmer, the less water, right? And so you have from soft to hard different kind of cheeses, and then you have other categories like flavored cheeses, etc. But today we're just talking. It looks like we have a double cream here with the brie. We have a semi-hard here and a semi-hard here. So I think this will be a pretty fun exercise. And so I just want you to try the different cheeses with each of the wine. Let's start off with wine number 1. Let's start off with Ariana, and you guys start tasting it and start spilling your thoughts. Just knee-jerk thoughts. We don't have to.
I want to say just about the wine. It has the most beautiful florality on the nose. It smells like a tinge of like honey or something just on the nose itself. I haven't gotten in yet.
Lychee.
all the way, baby. I agree with Chris.
That's pretty.
But this is like the motif of the entire flight, right? It's all about aromatic.
Yeah, and so these
All
aromatic
florality.
grape varieties, just so you guys can think about, it's a dimension that most people do not think about. And what these aromatic grape varieties can do is they can uplift foods just like fresh herbs do. So you have a tomato, salt, pepper, olive oil. If the tomato is good and the olive oil is good, you got a great tomato salad. Now imagine having that same tomato salad. Go ahead and eat while I'm talking. That same tomato salad with fresh torn shiso or basil. The aromatics of those two kind of herby kind of things, they uplift the foods. It makes it even more dynamic. That's what these aromatic grape varieties can do. And in addition to that, when you have it with a piece of herb, so later on you guys can try that wine with the fresh rosemary that you saw, and it's over here somewhere. And then you see it creates total electricity. So you have like a sautéed fish or a pan-fried fish, and you throw on Italian parsley or chopped thyme or basil at the end, and you try this wine with it, it creates electricity. It's pretty crazy. The issue is these aromatic grape varieties are very hard to come by. But not to get too involved, but the reason why I selected it, because I think the wine is superb. I think it's also very uplifting and refreshing, specifically for our warm climate and the kind of foods we typically have here in the islands. But equally as important is that this thing was $12.99 at a store.
I saw it at both Fujioka's and our field because
Yeah.
I've been seeing it more lately, and it's a steal. You
It's
gotta
a steal.
get it.
And you
yeah.
know what? It's also at our field in Alamona Shopping Center. I saw it there. So this wine is a little more regularly involved. It's so funny.
Nothing. You just said Alamoana. I just wanted to call you out on that, but
Well, it's not
Gonna
Alamona?
hukilau.
Is it not Alamona? Am I wrong?
Alamoana.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. Excuse me.
So wait, Chuck,
Okay.
do you eat the rinds?
Well, some people do, but in a lot of cases, I'm finding now that a lot of them you don't want to.
Okay.
And so
Some people
it just
like it.
depends.
some people like
Because
it.
nowadays, before it was just, part of the process, but now they're protecting with other kind of things.
Oh, okay. Understood.
So my answer to you for today, before I used to eat everything, just like the shrimp shells, I eat it. But today it's changed. So a lot of people are using some plastic coated things, specifically on the large production cheeses. So you have artisan cheeses and you have, commercial cheeses. So to be safe, I would leave the rind out.
Okay.
And the other thing that we need to talk about here that differentiates these cheeses from the others, you essentially have pasteurized cheese, processed cheese, in other words, and you also have raw milk cheese. So I know this Menchengo is not processed, so it's you could probably eat the rind on that, but just to be safe, I would say leave it alone. Okay, the second wine we're trying, and the grape variety is called it's called Kerner. This comes from the northeast hills. So you have Switzerland here, you have Austria here, and you have the Dolomites. And so up there at 3,500 feet, trees barely grow up there. That's where this wine comes from. And it's just all this rocks that have been pushed up against the mountains and activity of shifting of the fissures and everything. And so it's a very remote, very rocky kind of growing habitat. And you see soils like quartz and porphyry and other stones that you don't see normally on the flatter vineyards down below. So it creates a very different dynamic in the finished wine, or at least can. I think this wine is excellent because it's so breathtakingly pure and effortlessly light on the palate. It's just brilliant. It's just tasty. It seems so unheavy and so, uplifting.
I know we use the word minerality a lot on our show, but would you say this is a really good example of
what
minerality?
would you say?
For me, I think all three of them have something extra besides just fruit and besides just florality. Like when you actually have it on the palate, this one in particular has a very, very distinct, for me, minerality on it.
Okay.
Stoniness.
Chris, you want to comment?
No, I'm just eating and drinking, right? Like nobody's eating and drinking this.
He came here for a free meal.
Yeah, I basically did. That's why I didn't eat before this. No, so wine number 2, the Kerner, what you sacrifice in aromatics from wine number 1, you make up for in texture. What I feel like, because wine number 1, although it's super floral, pretty, has that high tone florality, like with certain cheeses, especially a little bit of the saltier ones, it has this ability to turn a little bitter. Right?
Yeah.
So you can see, it's so funny because like playing with one wine through 3 cheeses, you can see which one works the best and which one maybe doesn't work as good.
So going back to the Birkino, which one do you think, Chris, you like with the cheese?
I like it with the softer stuff.
The softer, yeah.
Like salt, like the harder things and the salt can accentuate like that bitterness and that whatever. But for the Kerner, it's so soft. It's almost like creamier. It's rounder, well textured. I don't know how that translates with the cheese, but that's the fun thing about this, right? Like you can go down and pick up this platter and find all 3 wines for a little under the same
and
price.
Have a party. Oh my God.
Play around
Yeah.
with it. Like it's so fun.
What a fun activity to do with someone, with your family. It's really awesome.
I didn't know that I had to talk. I thought I could just eat. Like it's
No,
so
that's
fun.
You know what? That's for 365 days of your real life. But right today, we're asking for some comments.
I gotta work.
I know that we're doing the cheeses, but I did have a little caperberry on my plate. Do you want to talk about how that complements the cheeses, Chuck?
Maybe we can do that at the end. I'd rather focus on the wine
Okay.
and the cheeses right now.
Okay.
So let's talk about wine number 1. Which cheese do you think this works most interesting, or if at all?
It certainly works with all 3 for sure. It just works with one a little better than the others for sure.
I like it with the cheeses. I think it just uplifts it. There's a little bit of bitterness at the end, but still, I like it because it just uplifts the cheese.
I don't think it's a noticeable bitterness. You have to actually specifically
Yeah, I think it's
look
really
for
good
it.
because cheese, in my mind, is pretty hard to pair wines with. Because it's so salty. It makes alcohol and bitterness exaggerated. So I really like that wine with the cheeses. I think it's really good.
Gouda's my favorite.
With
Gouda.
what?
With one.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. It's like it's not as creamy as the Brie, right? Like it sort of gets washed away like weight wise with the Brie, even though it's great.
Gouda?
But we're like nitpicking, Like, will I drink this wine with every single thing on the platter? Like the answer is yes.
And for $12.99 a bottle, $12.95 a bottle. I think it's fantastic. Okay, Ariana, or Chris, we'll start with Ariana this time. Ariana, what about wine number 2? Does any of those work with any of the cheeses?
So going back to me for the Kerner, I think that, I don't know, I keep going back to the Brie just in this weird like creamy textureness with the salinity, but I could also see it going with all 3 different ones in different ways too.
How about you, Chris?
I agree, but like specifically the Brie rind, because there's this like funky oxidative thing that goes on. Like I don't know how to explain it. It's funk. It's oxidation.
Okay. So Kerner with the Brie, perhaps? Again, so I forgot to mention to you, so
I think texture-wise, yeah.
Manchego is sheep's milk, just to let you know. Mm-hmm. That's
Just
right,
to
right?
let you know.
You.
Oh.
That's a bad joke. And then the Brie is cow's milk, and the Gouda is cow's milk. So, and just to let you know, the Gouda and the Manchego typically are around 45% dry. Mm-hmm. So that means it's there's not as much water as the soft cheeses. It's more about the fattiness of the cream, right? Whereas the brie is more like 60 to 75% because it's a double cream. So it's about 60 to 75% dry. So that means it's got it's got more fat inside. So that's why it's so rich. And it's semi hard, so you can see it would ooze at room temperature.
I'm gonna eat the rind. This is not commercial stuff.
Okay.
This is artisan stuff. I'm gonna eat the rind.
Okay.
We're not dealing with like.
So should we try with a Rhine wine?
Right?
The right wine. It's a
all good
It's
cheese.
a
I'm
wine
gonna eat the
joke.
rind.
It's
Hey.
a wine rind joke.
Jesus, guys. Jesus, really?
Let's move on to wine number 3. Let's look at the Hooked.
Okay. So,
So this is a Rudy Weist wine.
yep,
Okay.
Rudy Weist.
Rudy
Yep.
Weist.
So Rudy retired, so it's now a Jenna Fields selection. She took Rudy's company and spun it off, and it's called the German Wine Collection.
Very cool. German wine collection.
So Rudy blended the initial bottlings of this stuff.
Okay.
Okay, so you can see it's got a little bit of residual sugar. It's
Just a
slightly
touch.
sweeter than medium dry. It's 10.5 alcohol, so it's got some sweetness to it, but not much. So how does this work with the 3 cheeses?
It balances the salinity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And because of the lower alcohol content, you notice how the bitterness is more subdued? Yeah.
Which is funny because it does smell sweet, but it doesn't taste as sweet as it smells.
As it smells, yeah.
But it also smells salty. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if you can smell salt, but like maybe I'm associating it with like one too many times at tequila nights, like the terrible Mexican bars. But like it smells like margarita salt, like lime and margarita, and it's super zesty. It's a really zesty Riesling.
I keep going back to the harder cheeses with it for me. I don't know if that's correct or not, but like the salinity matches, I feel like. But also there's that word again, minerality. Like there's a stoniness to it still.
That's delicious.
Good with the cheeses, right?
It's so good.
It's so funny. Chris and I have been talking about, there's the Hawaii Food and Wine Festival happening right now, shortly, here in Hawaii, with all these famous chefs coming in and all these fancy dinners that are happening and all the really cool and interesting menus that these star chefs are doing in collaboration with some of the star local chefs, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's some really interesting dinners coming up. And it's so funny because if I had my way, there would be Riesling with each of the courses. Isn't that true, Chris? It's so crazy. And I remember I used to do Cuisines of the Sun, and I also used to do a cooking show with Roy Yamaguchi for like 6 years, 6 seasons. And I remember the executive producer always say, and the executive moderator for Cuisines of the Sun would always say, Chuck, do you always have to do Rieslings? Can't you change it up? And I would simply say, have the chef change the food. I'm not trying to be fancy, or I'm not a Riesling enophile. It's just, when you have foods that have spiciness or saltiness like this cheese, you understand.
Well, let's call
That
up
the
Jenna
sli-
Fields. Let's do a Riesling and Asian food event.
So Chris and I will always have to work at it to compromise, to do things that people would understand. Because if you do a dinner with solely Rieslings, how many people are going to attend? But you could see
and
by
you.
this.
And you.
But you can see by this exercise, look how Riesling just melds in with all 3 cheeses like effortlessly.
And Mark Shishito would be in attendance.
And this thing was in the store for $13.99. I saw it at Artfield Kailua. I bought this bottle at Artfield Kailua. And it's right down the street, and it's $13.99 there.
We were selling that by the glass at the Royal too at Azure when we were open, and it was just one of those that, hey, if chef's just bringing out a Asian special of the day, it was just a really easy go-to. Yeah.
Okay, so now let's go to you dress your caperberry. Now you try the caperberry with each of the 3 wines. You tell
It's
me
my
what you think.
first caperberry, guys. I have no idea what to
Always
expect.
remember your first.
It's like a pickle meets a caper.
Okay.
Is that wrong?
Okay is the Chuck answer when it's like,
Crickets.
let's move on.
Crickets.
Some people like it.
Some people like it. Hey, Justin Park, some people like it.
So wait, you want me to just eat this, or you want me to?
Try it with the wine.
Oh, okay. It's very salty, has a tang to it, way more fleshy than a caper. And it has like these little seeds, just for other people who have never had a caper berry before either. So I'm going to...
So again,
Have
the
a bit.
caper is just a bud that's been marinated. And then this is the caper berry that's been allowed to
Caper
grow.
berry.
Yeah.
So
So it's from the same plant.
I went with what I thought would work best with it, which was the Riesling with a touch of sugar. Now I feel like that was a bad call because once you have like that little bit of sweetness, it's hard to like go back. But I really like that pairing.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna
So,
keep.
the key to
hitting
this
this.
thing, just to let you know, this is different from the cheese pairing. Cheese is about saltiness. The caper berry really is about the vinegar.
Oh, I see.
And so vinegar is high acid.
Okay.
So that's what, like a lemonade, you add a little bit of sugar so that the lemonade doesn't taste as sharp. That's what the pairing is with the caper berry or the caper. Because it has saltiness. You just counter that sensation, by doing something with a little bit of sweetness to it.
Hence its inclusion in the platter, right? Like,
Exactly.
Not everybody is as cool as
Well, I
drinking
think-
3 wines.
And I also think the caper berry's here for the charcuterie, the salumis.
course.
Salumi is
Oh,
plural for
okay.
salami. So, let's use that as a segue. And we're going to pause and we're going to reset with the red wines and we'll be right back. So don't go away.
We're gonna get our meat on.
Wow. She's lonely.
I just got married.
We'll be right back. Okay, ready?
Raj. Oh,
Right, you went Puno and then Raj.
what's up?
So welcome back, Chuck Furuya Uncorked. We had a chance to reset ourselves again. We're tasting the first half. We tasted from the cheese and salumi board from Fig and Ginger, and we tried 3 different cheeses. And I just want to make it clear again: the Manchego is from Spain, from La Mancha. It's the center of Spain. It's like very famous for its cheese. And then the other one we tried is the Gouda, which is from the Netherlands, and that's cow's milk, whereas the Manchego is sheep's milk. And then we finished off with the Brie. Brie is also from France, or it is from France, and
Double
it's cow's
cream.
milk, and it's a double cream. So we tried 3 different wines with it. So now we're going to look at the Sopressata and the Prosciutto and see what kind of wine goes with that. It certainly isn't white because you can see in the Sopressata, for instance, you see all that white specks, that's fat. So they essentially grind up everything. They put it in casings and they cure it. So because of the fat, we need red wine. But at the same time, to me, cheese and salumi platters call for something gulpable and light and delicious. So we selected 3 red wines accordingly. The first one comes from northeast Italy, up in the mountains again. And the grape variety is called Schiapettino. And this is from Bastianich. The Bastianich family owns 21 of the top restaurants, Italian kind of restaurants throughout the United States. Most famously, Babbo up in New York. So Joe Bastianich, who's also on MasterChef, this is his wine. It's made from the Schiapettino grape. So Schiapettino has made a huge comeback. It's super popular because it's easier to grow than a lot of the other indigenous red grapes. And you're able to create something fresh and fruity and, delicious and gulpable. So that's why we selected that. And in the store, I just bought this at Arfield Kailua. It was $16.29 or something like that a bottle. So I also think it's great value. We always try to, offer you wines that offer great value, then family owned and all that stuff, but great value as well. The second wine is from the Beaujolais region. And this is from the winery Marcel Lapierre, who's one of the legendary, most iconic winemakers of France of all time. He changed the game. Him and 3 of his colleagues changed the game, going back to very natural methods, both in the vineyard and the winemaking. And so when Cheryl and I were there, Morgon is what he wins his awards and his high acclaim for. When Cheryl and I were there, this wine, which was a different name then, but today it's called Raisin Galois, was a country-style wine that he would serve at his dinner table. So Cheryl and I had to get that wine to Hawaii. So that was the early vintages of that. And I just think this wine is so darn delicious and gulpable. So I think a Beaujolais is very apropos for cheese and salumi enjoyment. So that's why we're offering that. And then the last wine, as you can see, is a very lighter color. It's very lighter in pigmentation. You can see through it clearly. It almost looks like a little darker rosé. This wine is a Lambrusco de Sobara. This comes from the Emilia-Romagna appellation of Italy. It's lightly fizzy. We serve it well chilled. And to me, this is typically what's served with salumi and salumi and antipasti in Italy. Well chilled, and you know that. I mean, you're a big. You pair this a lot.
I'm a big eater.
He's a
I'm
big guy.
Eater of fat and salt. No, this is by far one of my favorite Lambruscos, and definitely one of my favorite.
Very
pairings.
classic.
I mean, it's classic, and it's classic for a region, right? We talk about regionality, right? Which is, I mean, the place Emilia-Romagna where Lambrusco was made is the same regions that like did all the cool kid Italian things that we Americanize today, right? So not only prosciutto di Parma, but like Modena, the balsamic vinegar. So like it's a hotbed for like culinary and
Cuisine. Yeah.
Right.
I think sometimes Psalms like we shouldn't, but poo-poo, Emilia Romagna. Oh, I need to skip over that region. There's not a lot going on there wine-wise. But when you just naturally think, okay, there's a lot of food there. So obviously people are drinking something with it. This is it, right? In terms of like what they're actually having with food.
I don't know about food, but just, poo-poo.
Poo-poo style, yeah.
And there,
Aperitivo.
just to make it clear, there is also some Lambrusco, some pretty good Lambrusco made in Lombardy next door. So it's not simply limited to Emilia-Romagna, right? So this is one that's favorite. So right next, I'm not trying to tout one store, believe me. I mean, the more stores that we can encourage to buy these kind of wines and offer it to all of you, the better. So some of these stores at the same time, we're asking you, go in and ask for it, these kind of wines, because that's how we can move the envelope forward so that we can enjoy more family owned and artisan and, kind of things. These are family owned, and that's very important. And it's indigenous grapes, not Chardonnay and Cabernet based wines. And the other thing, this wine, I bought it at Arfield, Kailua, $13.69 a bottle.
Wow. That's a steal.
What?
It's crazy.
That's a steal, right?
I know how much left we have in inventory, and I seriously drink this wine a lot, so I'm scared that like now everybody's gonna buy my wine.
$13.69, and we serve it well chilled. And on one episode, Cully and I, with one of our daughters, Melissa, we poured this on the rocks.
So good.
Yeah, it's so good. Okay, so.
But like all the reds are like for now they're all.
I mean, when you also want to think about on the rocks, you should share the Beaujolais story with Bruce Nyers drinking Beaujolais on the rocks.
Oh, we've done that too many times already, so I don't want to go in that story. Chris might fall asleep again. Okay, so let's just break down the wines. Ari, you start off with wine number one. Tell us what you think about just the wine itself.
We're going to the Bastianich.
Yep.
I just feel like, obviously it has a darker color than like, let's say the Lambrusco, but it's still effortless and it still has this savory quality.
Very savory.
Very savory. I keep personally going back to the salumi for me. I don't know.
Salumi is
Sopressata?
plural. Yeah. Sopressata, yeah.
Sopressata.
Salumi is plural for salami, so it's
Salami.
Sopressata salami.
Sopressata salami. Okay. I don't know. Can you explain to me maybe why I keep going back to that?
That savoriness.
The savoriness.
And remember, those white specks is fat. Mm-hmm. So this one has firm acidity, and it's got a little bit of tannins.
So the cool thing about Schiapartino, like to get really dorky, is there's this compound called Rotundan.
Oh,
which
yeah,
smells like
black pepper. Think
And-
about Syrah for our viewers that just saw a couple Syrah episodes.
For sure. And Schiapartino is like a grape that has like one of the highest naturally occurring. It's like Rotundan is like Schiapartino is like the grape for the highest precursor in Rotundan. So it seems to reason that this is like all black pepper, and it really is. Like that's all I can smell right now. But I'm not saying it's a one-note wine, but it's totally black pepper.
So I get this feeling of roasted chestnuts and, more autumn kind of flavors. It's not uplifting. It's not
It's like deep.
light and ethereal. It's deep and dark and
It'd be great
and
for like
savory.
November dinner with the family kind of thing.
but with cheese and salumi, I think, or roasted birds, or things like that. Just more savory cooked dishes. So some people ask me, what can we do with beef stew or savory stews or braised foods? This would be, like braised chicken. I think this would be a good alternative while we're on the subject. And again, I don't know if I said it earlier. I paid 16, I think 16 something for this bottle of wine. I just bought it down the road. And I think it's wonderful, and I think it offers tremendous value. Okay, so Chris, yes.
Here's one of the wines too, though. Like, as I speak with a mouthful of meats, but so I'm used to it.
Exactly.
Not my first time. It's like I wish we had smell-o-vision because it is bursting out of the glass. Like, this is intensely aromatic. It has a lot of things going on, and there's a lot of flavor, but it's also the thing that works really well is that it's very low in alcohol. I don't know what it is, but it's probably a lot less than some of the white wines we had.
Yeah, I think so. It's 12.
Wow.
12% alcohol. Yeah, you're right. That's a good point. It's very delicious.
He's like,
but
I
it's
got
not,
one.
Yeah, very good, Chris. Okay, so let's talk about wine number 2. So who talked about?
Lapierre.
So you talk about Lapierre. Reason.
I mean, I'm sure you covered the producer like ad nauseum on this podcast, but like it's great, and it's specifically this particular bottle, like you mentioned, right? He wins all the awards for like the more
Morgon.
expensive bottlings, right? But this is the kind of stuff you want to drink. You just want gulpable things. You want things that
You gotta go
wash
closer to
it
the
down.
mic.
You want things that just wash down fatty, salty things. I don't
Yeah.
know. It's just enjoyable. Like this is one of the wines that I pour for people that are like just getting into wine, and if like you don't like this wine, it's hard to be your friend.
Well, the thing about this wine, so
Deal
Lapierre
breaker.
is a very iconic, very legendary producer, right? Mainly for his methodology and his philosophies in grape growing and winemaking, back to basics like how his ancestors did it. So the wines turn out to be more natural minded, right, Chris?
Right.
Okay, so
But
the way I can convey this to you all, it's like my cousin, my wife, and I were in Italy, and there's a restaurant called Duomo. It's a Michelin 3-star. I mean, which is the highest award by the Michelin Guide. 3-star. It's in Piemonte, Duomo. And, it's like 500 a person easily, Well, right below it is a cafe-styled wine, same chef, same owners, that's called La Piola. So the reason why I love going there is that same chef oversees it. But it's more casually done. So it's the same kind of fresh ingredients, but maybe not the certain sprig that's used upstairs, and the remainder, he'll use it downstairs. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people will use the rabbit loin or the whole rabbit, and they'll only use the loin for the Michelin 3-star restaurant, and the rest of the rabbit, c'est la vie, right? Mm-hmm. So that's when they use it downstairs and maybe make a rabbit salad or whatever. So the point of the story is I love going to the more casual restaurants of all these famous chefs, right? Especially the ones that are doing it well. So that's how I feel about this wine. Lapierre is an icon. He is a Hall of Famer. He is a game changer. And again, his Morgon is what he wins his accolades and his awards for. And so this is the kind of wine he would serve at his dinner table, right? And so it's all about deliciousness, food friendliness, and gulpability. That's what I love about this wine. I think I paid $19 a bottle. I bought this at Arfield Kailo. $19 a bottle for this wine.
So I just want to say all of these wines are at or under $20 pretty much.
Right.
And I'm just over here asking my husband not to buy a case of beer for $20 and, at the same price for buying a case of beer saying, oh, I need to buy that $60 bottle of wine for it to be good. You can have 3 different red wines and try it so many different combinations with the board. That's so cool.
And the last time I bought this Lapierre, it was at Tamura's in Kamuki.
The YLI.
And it was the same price. But I mean, so this wine, you can find it here or there. I also saw it at Fujioka's.
Yeah.
I also saw it at Arfield Alamoana.
Yeah. So people in the know, Alamoana. Yeah.
Alamo.
So people in the know, I mean, it's stocked, right? The one more thing I want to say about Lapierre, because like, we talk about him all the time, but it's cool that we lead with like, here's the history, right? Here's the biodynamics. So there was a biodynamic movement, and he like did all the right things, and it's like organic on steroids, and it's such a good sustainable thing for the earth, and it's so awesome. But like, I cannot blind taste those things, right? Like, that is a bonus. Like all that other cool stuff they're doing for the environment, that it's the fact that it's family owned, like that happens to be a bonus. And first and foremost, this is a really delicious wine.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about number 3 now. So Ariana,
Lambrusco.
we'll start with you.
So I think we touched on this earlier, but I know that if you can kind of see, it's very, very light. It's like this pale garnet color, but it also has this light effervescence. And for me, it kind of ties in the board together. If you had to have like one thing to have a little bit of this, a little bit of that, a little bit of the nuts maybe even, and just have everything nice and light, and especially as a poo-poo, like precursor to dinner, this would be it for me personally.
You try the almonds?
That's nuts. That was a good
So
nut. Good
Fig and
timing.
Ginger also does these truffle Marcona almonds, and they sell them separately too, and they're kind of addicting. So
I'm taking the rest home.
So Chris, what are your thoughts on this third wine?
This is not only one of my favorite food and wine pairings of all time, but one of my favorite Lambruscos. I mean,
and there's a lot of different variability in terms of like color and concentration with
for
Lambrusco.
sure.
So to have something this light and refreshing, right?
all Lambrusco is not created equal. Let's The history of Lambrusco is brutal. Like a certain brand took it over and made it extremely sweet, and that's why it's got its name, right? But there are over 60 sub varieties of Lambrusco. And this particular one, Sorbara, happens to be like, I think it's a little fresher, right? It's a little fresher, it's a little more fruit forward, which lends itself more towards like that culpability, that drinkability that we keep talking about with these foods.
You're not talking to Mike, son.
Sorry.
You're breaking up. So, at the store, there was 2 excellent Lambruscos side by side at Arfield, Kailoa. There was this one, and I told you this was 13 something a bottle, and then was the one from Moretto. So Moretto is more about Gasparosa, which is another, but you know, it's bigger. It's got more to say. But in terms of, and it's really good, but it's a lot more pricey as well, and deservedly so. This wine is more about cafe or bistro style. It's light. You can just see from the color. That's, you know, it was just, we special ordered this, right, Chris?
You did.
No, but
I took credit.
no, but it's light and delicious and gulpable, you know. And again, what it does on your palate, because of that fizz and the cranberryness and the sour cherryness of this thing, it's like the cranberry Thanksgiving feast. So you have this rich salami and prosciutto and all these cheeses. It's just like refreshing your palate between bites. That's what it does to
It
me.
makes me want more of the salami.
I just recommend that you serve it well chilled. I mean, very well chilled. That's when it's at its best. So you take a cooler with you, just stick in the ice. That's the way to go. And then on one of our first episodes, we served it on the rocks. But if you do the rocks after that Justin Park segment that we shot, you got to make sure that the ice doesn't melt. So solid ice would be better because it will dilute this thing.
Or just drink real fast.
Yeah, exactly. You got the technique. Okay, so let's talk about with the salami and cheese. Which one, excuse me, the salami or the prosciutto? Ariana, which one did you prefer with wine number 1?
So for me, the soppressata was specifically with wine number 1.
Why? Why?
I think because it had that, like we said, savoriness, but now that Chris mentioned the rotondon and having that pepper quality, it kind of was reminiscent of the wine itself.
Okay.
So that for me.
Chris, your thoughts on the
Seriously,
Gipitino?
they're all good. At this point, we're just nitpicking.
Yeah.
We talk about food and wine pairing, and I know there's an art because I sat on your dinners. I know that we sat through a dinner with like 5 different Rieslings, and like Riesling number 1 did not go with dish number 2, and Riesling number 3 did not go with dish. So I understand that there's an art, but just serve really good food and really good wine, and like I think you'll be happy. Is that oversimplifying things?
No, I think that's great. It adds to your enjoyment, correct?
Yeah.
So again, this cheese and salumi board was how much?
$65.
And that's including the crackers and everything, right? And so you just have to go online for that. And these are just some of the wine suggestions for you, you know. And then these aren't trophy wines, you know. It's just all about, again, this podcast. We're really trying to make...
They're meant to be drunk.
Yeah, and enjoyed. This is an enjoyment opportunity, right? It's an enjoyability. You know, that's what I love about this thing. So there you go. Yes.
If you could choose one white and one red.
For me, it would be the Lambrusco for the red. And just because... Oh, so if you could have one white and one red with this board, what would you do?
Okay, Chris, you first.
Why me first?
Because she showed you.
Lambrusco for me is perfect with charcuterie and cheese. Like
Okay.
it's the end all be all, and I'm not knocking any of the other reds. They're great for their own reasons. But Lambrusco and charcuterie, if you haven't tried it yet, you're not living. Try it, please. And then the whites, I'm just a big fan of Riesling, so
The Hooked.
I have to say that.
The Hooked.
Okay. Ariana.
Well, I think Chris copied me, but I also was going to say the
It's sugar, right?
Lambrusco.
It's sugar.
Just because I feel like the light, like the buoyancy of it was able to tie in multiple different things, including accompaniments. And then I think the sugar, like I said with the salt, if I had to be different from Chris, then I would say the Barraquino.
I think the Barraquino. Did you try the Barraquino with the... we should try the Barraquino with the salumis once we go off the air. That would be fun.
And then you can
I
try
think
it
it
at
would
home
work.
too.
Okay. You have another question? Nope. Thank you,
Yeah,
Ariana.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you.
By the way, I didn't mention, in 2016, level 3,
You mentioned that.
Chris had the highest score in the world, ladies and gentlemen.
Can we? Okay.
Sugoi.
Oh, he's doing the humble thing. Okay, let's all be humble.
How about we shout out our sponsors one last time?
Okay, who's our sponsors? Oh, yeah, you say it, Ariana.
So once again, everyone go check out new company, just started but already doing big things. Fig and Ginger Honolulu, fghonolulu.com. Get your pre-orders in. They've been doing some pop-ups and stuff. They're keeping everything really nice and cool.
And fresh.
And fresh.
And
check out the
country.
Instagram too. They're
Right.
fun to follow. Beautiful photos.
So Fig and Ginger, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining in this episode. We hope you tune in next week. Until then, aloha, everybody.
Aloha.
Aloha.